Hi, Rabbi Skolnik here. I'm delighted to have this opportunity to share a few words with you today about Parashat HaShavua, our weekly Torah portion, which this week is Parashat Yitro, the story of Yitro, that's Moshe's father-in-law. But more significantly, in Parashat Yitro, we read of the revelation of the Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai. Now, under any circumstances, I think that one could safely say that chapter 19 of the book of Shmot, the book of Exodus, is one of the most important chapters in the entire Torah because of its content. All of Western civilization is in essence based on those commandments, and what the non-Jewish world refers to as Judeo-Christian civilization is rooted in the idea of those commandments. But I would like to suggest to you, in the context of understanding the significance of that chapter, that the significance is something even greater than the mere content, particularly for us in the Jewish community. My understanding of this chapter was shaped as an adult by an excerpt from the book God in Search of Man, written by the late wonderful philosopher Abraham Joshua Heschel, on the subject of revelation. Heschel really opened my eyes to what the issue is in chapter 19, namely that chapter represents the Torah's version of the giving of the Torah. Most of the time, when we think of what the content of the Torah is, we think of it as the content of the revelation on Sinai. But this is actually the Torah's version of how we came to have the Torah. The Israelites were redeemed from Egypt. They come to the foot of the mountain. Thunder, lightning. Moshe ascends the mountain. He's there for 40 days and 40 nights. Most of us have had our image of the revelation at Sinai shaped more by Cecil B. DeMille than anyone else, because we all grew up watching that movie. But the truth is that how we understand chapter 19 is going to essentially define where on the continuum of contemporary Judaism we place ourselves. That sounds like a large statement, but it's true. Heschel maintains that chapter 19 can't be understood as a photograph or as a news report of the revelation. He says that you have to understand this chapter more as an impressionistic painting, namely that whoever put this chapter together, however it came to be, couldn't possibly have been describing exactly what happened at Sinai, because who could possibly describe the grandeur of God descending on a mountain and revealing Torah to us? The chapter speaks in human language about God saying to Moses, and it's the height of anthropomorphism to imagine, like with Cecil B. DeMille, that God is going, Moses, or something grandiose like that. It's an idea that we, as moderns, have to really work hard to try and wrap our brains around. What does it mean that God revealed God's self on Sinai? Heschel said that the worst injustice that we can do to Parashat Yitro in general and to chapter 19 in particular is to read it like a news story, as if the New York Times was reporting on the revelation and said, yesterday afternoon on the 6th day of Sivan, an unusual event occurred in Sinai when there was thunder and lightning and God revealed God's essence on the mountain. Continued on page 6. You can't read the Bible that way. You can't read the story of Revelation that way. Heschel said that the person who put this chapter into the form that we have it was in essence trying to convey to us the grandeur, the mystery, the majesty of the event at Sinai. Not denying Revelation, but rather encouraging us to understand it in its biggest sense. Now, this is a great challenge to us in the modern Jewish world, because a more traditional Orthodox read, if you will, of the text would suggest that the text of the Torah that we have is a literal revelation from Sinai, that the text that we have is exactly as God revealed it. Heschel is challenging that idea. And he's saying that if you read chapter 19 this way, you're robbing God of God's mystery. It's not an easy idea to convey in a few brief moments on a video, but I would really encourage you, if you want to enrich your appreciation of chapter 19 in the book of Exodus, to find a copy of Heschel's book, God in Search of Man, find the chapter on Revelation, and read it, not once, but a few times. It's only a few chapters long. I promise you it will enrich your appreciation, not only of Revelation, but of Torah as a whole. Shabbat Shalom.